Hi, this one is my first video I made today, but right now it's not coding. It's about the interview question. So now the question is about Bean life cycle. My previous video already talk about how to creating the Bean. There are 3 different type, right? We can create the Bean. Now here we need to know how to what is the Bean life cycle. It is managed by the Spring container. We know Bean is stored in a Spring container. When we run the program line, first of all, the Spring container gets started. After that, the container creates the instance of a Bean as per request. And then dependencies are injected. And finally, the Bean is destroyed when the Spring container is closed. A simple step talk about the Bean life cycle. Actually, inside the Bean life cycle is many component layer, but it's really difficult to talk about each component. But you can just remember the easy step of the Bean life cycle. Now, the difference between BeanFactory and the ApplicationContext. So because English is not my first language, I couldn't remember all the name. But if English is your first language, I think you can try to memorize all the name. So the interviewer should be get shocked. Or you had good memory, you can try. So I just pick in a few points I remember. So I like it's use lazy initialization, and for the application context, using the eager initialization. Also, you see it doesn't support annotation based dependency. And this one is support annotation based dependency. So you can see in the table by your own. Now the question is Bean scope. So the question also get asked by interviewer. So the Bean scope, they are supported by Spring. So actually you only remember the first two. The first two is more important. So here have 6 Bean scope, but you don't need to memorize all the name. You just memorize first two. The Singleton is the default scope. A Singleton instance of Bean is created and shared across the entire Spring context. All requests for the Bean return the same instance. So no matter how many times you make a request, you always get the same instance of Bean. On the prototype, so you can see here use the as scope. So and then with the prototype, so you can see, so prototype means you can, no matter how many times you make a request, and you always get a different instance of Bean. So that's why comparing to the Singleton. Sometimes maybe you forgot to mention the scope type. It's fine. The Singleton type should be the default. So the Spring Boot will help you to create the Singleton as a Bean scope. Here's the request. Request using the request here. You can see in the parameters request. And a new instance of Bean is created for each HTTP request. This is typically used in web applications to ensure each HTTP request get its own instance of a Bean. The session, using the session parameter here, the new instance of Bean is created for HTTP session. So this scope is used to tie the Bean lifecycle to the lifecycle of the HTTP session, the global session, and similar to session scope, but it's used in Parlate-based web application to tie the Bean lifecycle to the global HTTP session. So you can go through this one, but just the first two is more important. The Singleton Bean A and the prototype Bean B, how do we inject A into B? So you can use the conjunctor injection or set injection. But actually, I want to show you the code, how to implement this one. But because my computer is really old, when I try to run the Spring application, it will take much time. So that's why maybe one day in the future, I buy a new computer So I will try to implement this one. And the other question I made today. So there are two ways to inject Singleton Bean to the prototype Bean. So we can use this two way, and then this one is code. You can see. So you can see is the configuration class, and then we will return the singleton as Bean. So here using the Bean annotation here, but maybe it's not really clear. But right now I couldn't implement this one, so you can Google search that. Now here question, this question is singleton Bean A and the prototype Bean B. Now is how do we inject B into A? Now is prototype, we inject prototype Bean into singleton Bean. So now here we can use method injection with lookup annotation. You can see we can use lookup annotation. Lookup annotation means we can override the Bean. So that's why here we can use lookup annotation. If the interview asks you, you just remember using the lookup annotation. Now, what is you understand on auto wire? So auto wire is Spring annotation used for automatic dependency injection. So we can inject the dependency from the IOC container, injecting to any component. Now, how does Spring know which bean to inject? So Spring will look for a bean of same type in the application context. So here is an IOC container and automatically inject it into annotated property or inject it into component. Yeah. Now, what's the usage of quantifier annotation? So when there are multiple beans of the same type in the application content, the Spring may not know which bean to inject. So now here in this case, we can use the quantifier annotation along with AutoWire to specify the name or quantifier value of the bean to inject. So the quantifier annotation can be applied to the property, constructor, or parameter of a method is setter, right? It's setter method. And each one can be the name of the bean or custom quantifier value. Yeah. Also, we have another bean can do the same way, but right now a little bit forgot. I will Google searching it later. So what is the usage of Spring Boot annotation application? So this question also is popular. You must be know what is the combination of the Spring Boot application. So here, Spring Boot application is annotation in the Spring framework that is used to declare the main class of a Spring Boot application. It combines the three commonly used annotation in Spring Boot. So it combines Spring Boot have the configuration annotation. It's a class level annotation that indicate the class has a Bean annotation definition method. So actually, sometimes they will ask you what's different between configuration and component annotation. So that question also is very popular and common. So I also prepared. So you can take a look. The second annotation is enable auto configuration. It's automatic configure Spring Boot application based on the Java dependency that you have added. So here, I don't know what have the three. So you don't need to care about this one. I made a mistake here. So you don't need to care about this the third line because I made small mistake here. So now you just only care about the third, the last one, component and scan annotation. Scan all the Spring component within the basic package and a sub package. Forgot the third one. I don't know why this here. Only configuration annotation, enable auto configuration, and the component scan annotation you need to know. Now, what's different between component, controller, repository, service annotation, and the Bean annotation in Spring? So Bean refers to object that is managed by IOC container. And then component is generic stereotype annotation that can be used to mark any class as a Spring managed component. The controller is marked a class as Spring Web MVC controller. So controller layer is control annotation can use to receive a request and return a response. And the repository layer is a stereotype annotation that is used to mark classes that perform database operation. Yeah, it's used to interact with database. So under this repository, we have so many built-in memory, built-in method can use. The service annotation is also stereotype annotation that is used to make classes that add business logic. So it's the service annotation. Also, we call it service layer. Is between service layer is kind of like the bridge between the control layer and the repository layer. Now describe Spring MVC. So Spring MVC is model view controller framework. It's designed around departures servlet. They handle all requests and the response. We use the Spring MVC develop flexible, loose couple web application. So actually nowadays, no company are no. I couldn't say 100%. No company use the Spring MVC, but most company doesn't use this one. They are using the Spring Boot. The Spring Boot also provide a web application dependency and a starter dependency we can use. So and then I also have diagram, but today I forgot to draw the diagram. So maybe next time I will draw this diagram. Maybe next video part 3, I will talk about this question one more time, and I will show you in the diagram what is the workflow of Spring MVC. Now today I just skip this question. What is the ViewResolver in the Spring? And the ViewResolver is part of Spring MVC. So ViewResolver provides a mapping between the view name and the actual view, but actually you don't need to know now because it's part of Spring MVC. The difference between, but you also need to know, if you want to know, you can learn this one. The difference between controller and the REST controller. Controller is used to create common web controller which can return HTTP response. Yeah, and but the REST controller is used to create controller for the REST API which can return JSON or XML file. So this JSON format and the XML file is very important. It must be mentioned is true. And then you also need to mention the REST controller annotation is combination of controller annotation response body. You also need to mention this one, these two key point. Even he asked me REST controller. And then request body and the response body. Request body is used to bind the HTTP request body to Java object. It's commonly used in the post and pull requests, whereas the client send the data in the request body. Spring automatically map request body to the specified Java object using the message converter. And the second is response body. It serialize a Java object into JSON or XML file, and send this information back as a part of HTTP response. The path variable annotation request parent or this one also is popular. Also, sometimes they will interview ask you, can you talk about the how to write what is look like in a URL? So you need to provide the URL for the interviewer. So he just want to see you understand or not. If you couldn't write the URL for the interviewer, it will show you, okay, you have less knowledge or you are not good fit in the position, so you will file. you will not be passed the interview. So you must be know these two and how to write the URL of REST API, and then the path variable annotation used to extract data from the path of URI, or REST parent is used to the extract query parameters or form parameters and the event file from the request. So these two different annotation used in different URL. So you must know this in the URL how to write it. Now the what's different the HTTP method. So we had many HTTP method, right? The get is used to retrieve resource from server. The post is used to create resource on server. The pull this method is used to update the existing resource on server. Delete a particular resource from the server, right? The patch is partially update the existing resource on server. So now the interviewer always like ask you what's different between the pull and the patch. These two you must be known. The patch is partially update the existing resource, and then here the pull is update the existing resource. So you can see it's partially. So pull is not partially. So if you remember this one, you need to configure and realize what's different between them. And now, what is idempotency? So this question also is very, very important. So idempotency implies that a certain operation can be applied many times without changing the result. So now, if you answer this question, then he will keep asking which HTTP words are considered idempotent. So you just mention get. So for example, so you make a request, you call the get method based on customer ID 1. Okay, 1. So no matter how many times you perform the get method, you always get the same the customer, right? Because you keep asking, okay, I want to get the customer 1 information. So that's why we call it get is idempotent, because you see the definition is without changing the result. So you always get the same result. Now, pull also you get the same because you also get the same result. The delete method or delete operation is a little bit tricky. So for example, you have the you perform the delete operation based on the customer 1. Okay, you call this one. So the customer 1 will delete from the database, right? Now, if you try to perform the delete operation based on the customer 1, do you think you will get any message from database? No, right? Because customer 1 already removed from the database. You cannot get any customer 1 information anymore. So you will get an exception or error message. Now, if you try to perform the deletion operation, what happens? You also get the same exception, right? So except after first time, you always get the exception. So that's why delete is a little bit tricky, but also is part of idempotent. You can see also option and the trace. In the head, you also can go to check that. Now it's REST standards, and yeah, REST are standards, meaning that code can be made independently of one another, and each code contains all the data necessary to complete itself successfully. Now describe the RESTful principle. Actually, in this question, nobody asked me, but if you are interested, you can go through this one. So client-server architecture. The client and the server are separate entities, and the client sends request to server, which process name and return response. And the status we already mentioned, right? So the server does not store any client content between requests. Each request from the client contain all the information necessary to process requests. The cacheable. The client can cache response from the server to reduce the number of requests made to the server. The uniform interface. The interface between the client and the server should be standardized, and each resource should be identified by unique UII. So layer system. The architecture should be designed to support hierarchy of layers, with each layer responsible for specific function. The code on demand. The server can provide executable code to the client, such as JavaScript or Java applet, to be executed on the client. Now, how to validate the values of a request body? Actually, I need to show you the code, and then you have more clear understand how to validate the values of request body. So first step, actually here is not, I didn't prepare. The first step should be any dependency, validation dependency in POM file, but I didn't mention here. I forgot to double check my content. So here, first step, we need to add a validation dependency. Second step, we have the entity class, right? In the entity class, we have multiple annotation we can use to validate the parameter provided by user, right? So like the size annotation, also pattern annotation, or we have minimum, maximum annotation to limit the size of parameters. And then third step, we need to go to the control layer. We have valid annotation with the parameter. So you need to find which parameter you want to check. So you can use the valid annotation with the request. And then you can see the size annotation and the pattern annotation came with the error message. If the request is not valid, okay, we can return a particular error message to the customer. But here I didn't do very well. Here the content is not very well because I forgot to double check. But it's fine. Okay, thank you for watching this video.